Okay, so my name is Thomas Mayer. I'm the Branch Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia, of whom I'm representing today. Also President of the Trades and Labour Council of the Northern Territory. So I just wanted to put on the record that the Maritime Union absolutely has great concern about that fracking may come to the Northern Territory, and are very interested in seeing that this commission of inquiry is as thorough as possible, and we would prefer that that it is not allowed, because basically maritime workers, we feel that this may affect our jobs. We work in the offshore industry, and economic assessments that will be made should consider further pressures on offshore exploration where our members work. As far as also jobs go, I'm aware that many companies, especially in remote areas, are using FIFO workers, certainly more than Territorian workers or people that live here. And I don't believe that the fracking industry will be any different, despite what they may claim. We have other extractive industries here, mines such as the Groote Eylandt Gemco mine that employs a great majority of people from interstate, and therefore the economic benefits of those jobs do not stay here. As a Torres Strait Islander and an activist in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander advancement and justice as well, I'm also concerned that commitments made by the fracking industry, as others have been known to do, will not be delivered. The jobs that they purport to be creating are unlikely to be, highly qualified jobs. There is plenty of occasions where I have seen the commitments made to the people that haven't been delivered in practical outcomes. Further, whose dollars are spent? I heard that a bit earlier. I'm concerned that it's the taxpayers that ultimately pay for the infrastructure that is, said to be created by these sorts of projects. And I have real concern that the Commission must consider the record there on who actually pays for the infrastructure for these projects, and I don't think that the risk that fracking brings to the water table and to the environment, I don't think that the risk is low enough to justify that. Further, the Aboriginal people that live on those lands where the fracking is are the front line for anything that goes wrong. And we know from that we know our sad history that they are the last to be heard as well. When things go wrong, and things continue to be worse than third world country conditions in some of those communities. And that if something goes wrong and the water is poisoned, then those people will be the ones that suffer, and those are the people that will be there for millennia to come. I noted the comments said just before about the integrity of the capping of the wells, and I would say that what guarantee is there that these things will never deteriorate and leak, rather than what evidence is there that they will. I just want to end with just a matter of trust, I suppose. jobs are committed to and not delivered by these industries, in my experience, often. There's commitments for consultation that generally don't happen. And the adherence to regulations, you can put the best regulations into place, but you know, what guarantee is there that those regulations won't be breached? How will they be monitored? And is the risk that they will be breached based on historic practices of some companies? What is the risk versus you know, the trust factor? And lastly, clean-up. You know, the you know, wellhead integrity or the capping would require monitoring. We have commitments to returning environments to the way that they were before. We have legacy mines all over the territory where commitments have not been met in that regard as well. I understand that no industry goes ahead without some risk and risk management, but for fracking, people that I represent and the people that I know in the community are not prepared to take that risk when it comes to fracking.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being so succinct as well. It's commendable. I had one question, which was expressed a concern that any onshore unconventional gas industry could take jobs away from the offshore gas industry, which is your constituency. What sort of jobs do you envisage will be taken off the offshore gas industry?
So the offshore extraction of gas and oil involves supply, you know, vessels going to and from the offshore facilities. There are jobs on the actual facilities as well. You know, so cargo supply, you know, maintenance equipment, you know, supply is all done through the stevedores at the wharf here at East Arm, and then the offshore workers on the vessels and on the facilities.
It just strikes me that there's probably a different skill set and different job description. So I'm having trouble, and I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm genuinely having trouble to see what jobs would flow from one industry to the other industry. And they seem like different jobs.
Yeah. My union covers seafarers, and so you don't require seafarers to carry things to, you know, the onshore. They man the ships and the docks, really, you know, so they are jobs that won't exist if there was only onshore extraction of gas, for example.
I see, and so you're worried that the onshore would completely replace the offshore?
Yeah, and then the cost stuff too, you know, like if, you know, if that pressure, the price of oil and gas was low enough that there was that competitiveness, you know, well, you would think that onshore gas would win, you know, as far as cost effectiveness goes. But my point being, you know, risk as well.
Yeah, I understand the risk component. It would certainly help us if the MUA could perhaps provide us with a few more details of how they envisage the job losses flowing from one part of the industry to the others. I'm still that would certainly, if that information could be provided to us, and by way of estimates, for example, that would be of huge assistance. Yeah,
if I may also, you know, I mean, alternative forms of energy, you know, solar, even offshore wind farms, I mean, that'd be great. Our members would love that. You know, but
wouldn't that take away from your jobs as well?
No, but it would be putting back as well. You know, you'd
onshore. How would onshore solar not take away from your jobs?
The offshore construction, the maintenance of the, you know, there would be vessels required to service those, you know, regardless. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also supplies to be loaded off the dock. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Dr. Anderson.
Yeah, Ms. Mayor, I can understand how you're representing your particular union's interests. Just wondering, you know, if you took a step back and talked about the broader NT's community's interest. Do you have any, you know, how would you respond to that? terms of looking at the broader community interest in whatever job or whatever
absolutely.
might happen. Yeah.
We have an interest in jobs. I think there's a real problem with our economy. Absolutely, that's true. That's acknowledged. There's a problem with our population as well. You know, we need to grow as a territory. Our communities need to grow. You know, for them to be successful and for opportunities to be created for our children. But I don't think fracking is the answer. You know, not for the risk and not for the public sentiment either. There is a problem with jobs staying in the territory. The mine that I used as an example is 480 workers, and a great majority of those workers fly mostly to Cairns or Queensland generally, and they take their money with them. They are high-paying, you know, through enterprise bargaining that the union's done for a long time, well-paid jobs that mostly all of those wages are going interstate almost, you know. There are very few, and the companies might claim that they're doing well because they've got a dozen, but I still think that's very few compared to what could be done if there was more effort made. You know, there is very few jobs for the Indigenous people as well. And most of those jobs are in the rehabilitation section of, you know, department of that mine. So our interest is in fixing those things to create jobs, not having something that could risk that very important element that we need to live, which is water. I hope that answers your question.
Any further questions? Again, thank you very much. And
Thanks, guys.
thank the MUA, sorry, for appearing today. We're very grateful. Thank you.